Ron Hunter, live at 5, weekdays on Channel 8.
Tonight, the siege at the Washington Monument, possible financial problems for a local health group, and the Battle of the Cabbies.
This is News Scene 8.
Good evening. One man is dead tonight, and authorities are still looking for the other following a siege at the Washington Monument. It all began this morning when a man threatened to blow up the structure unless we banned nuclear weapons. He said he had 1,000 pounds of dynamite in a van. When he tried to drive off, he was shot to death. Police believe a second suspect is still hiding in the monument. We hope to have a late report later in this newscast.
Conflicting reports tonight concerning possible financial problems at the New Orleans Health Corporation. Financial problems that could make this Christmas a miserable one for the clinic's employees and patients. Vanessa Dixon explains.
The New Orleans Health Corporation operates 5 clinics in our area. Like this one in Central City, they are all state-funded. Sources tell News Scene 8 the executive director of the clinics, Ella Bogan, visited several of the facilities today, telling the more than 150 workers they will not be paid this Friday for the past 3 weeks they have worked. State Representative Johnny Johnson, the president of the corporation's board of directors, says he met with the governor and believes the company will meet the payroll. Johnson added he has no reason to believe the workers will not be paid. But as clinic employees left their jobs today, many confirmed they were told not to expect paychecks Friday. Some vow not to report to work tomorrow, and others say they may never return.
I'll need, and I know others will need their money because I'm the sole support of my household. And I'll need my money Friday to pay the rent, my electric bills, and also other bills that I have for the home.
According to reliable sources, the clinic was ordered to lay off 35 people effective this Saturday and 15 others by the first of the year, an attempt to whittle down a budget that's reportedly in the red. That same source says these incidents are signs the clinics may not survive the spring. Vanessa Dixon, News Scene 8.
Business and industry leader Ed Steimel says Louisiana's economy is stymied, and he says if something is not done, we could wind up being a poor second cousin to Mississippi. Steimel says that could happen if Louisiana loses its oil and gas industry, and he says now is the time to expand our economic base by attracting high-technology industries to the state. New Orleans City Hall will open its doors just a little wider to the public beginning this Friday. That's when a new disclosure policy takes effect. It requires full disclosure of all partners involved in city projects. One project to be covered by the new law, the city's controversial land swap deal.
Some of those discussions were had prior to the pending DeBartolo land swap, but certainly the fact of that matter increased the intensity to get something accomplished and to have something done.
The mayor says the new policy will help avoid any questions over conflict of interest.
We now have that late report on today's siege at the Washington Monument. Here's ABC's Herbert Kaplow.
There was an eeriness to it. As much of the day, the figure in the jumpsuit, wearing the helmet with visor drawn, hands gripping what appeared to be an electronic device, walked almost casually near the base of the monument, near the van which he claimed held explosives. As daylight faded, he was still there, and it looked like a long night ahead. The focus under lights now on the eerie spectacle at the base of the monument. Suddenly, at 7:40 p.m. Washington time, shots, about 10 of them. A minute or so later, with the helicopter light shining, there it was, about 100 yards or so from the monument, on its side. Dogs, specially trained dogs, were sent into the van and indicated that there were explosives aboard. Then, word that a man in the van was dead. Meanwhile, more shots, tear gas fired into the monument, followed by a police squad searching for a second man inside the monument.
Is it over? Did you find a second suspect or not?
Just fill us in on the status now.
Well, did you find someone up in the monument?
We, at the present time, have a set team that is going step by step, trying to make a determination if there is, in fact, a second individual in the Washington Monument.
Herbert Kaplow, ABC News, Washington.
Closer to home, a New Orleans policeman is behind bars tonight, charged with murdering his girlfriend. The body of 24-year-old Janelle Chuccio was found sprawled on the steps of her next-door neighbor early this morning. Her throat had been slashed. Booked on murder charges is 29-year-old John Moran, a 7-year veteran of the New Orleans Police Department.
A special grand jury has been formed in New Orleans to investigate widespread prostitution and related street crimes. The exclusive story from News Scene 8 investigative reporter Richard Angelico.
Since January, there have been 457 prostitution arrests in Orleans Parish, 100 more than last year. Most were in the city's French Quarter, and 39 of those arrested were men who solicited undercover policewomen posing as prostitutes. There have also been 57 male prostitutes arrested, men and boys who sell their services to other men. Those arrests come under a new state law, a direct result of News Scene 8's undercover investigation into male prostitution called Cruising the Streets. And police in the DA's office have cracked down on bars like the Old Absinthe House, where 2 bartenders were arrested recently for pandering. Escort services like House of the Rising Sun and a dozen others have also had people arrested on pandering and drug charges. The problem is so pervasive that 3 weeks ago, District Attorney Harry Connick convened a special grand jury.
We have received complaints from citizens and business people in the quarter about street crime, and it involves a great deal of prostitution activity. And what we want to find out is what's behind it, what makes it tick, who's responsible for it, and what we can do to reduce it even more than it has been reduced in the last 4 or 5 months.
Quarter residents told the district attorney about sex acts on the street, on their steps and porches, and about their children being harassed on the way to school. That's when the district attorney's office decided to convene a special grand jury. So far, more than 30 people have testified before the special grand jury, and more witnesses are expected. Richard Angelico, News Scene 8.
Ku Klux Klan leader Bill Wilkinson is threatening to sue the Hammond City Council. Wilkinson says he may file suit following his arrest last night at a council meeting. 7 Klansmen showed up at the meeting to protest the city's refusal to grant them a rally permit. The 7 were arrested after they refused to take off their robes.
Cab drivers at New Orleans International Airport are angry tonight over a new pickup policy. And as Mary Lou McCall reports, there could be trouble.
The cab drivers are bitter because they're required to park behind the on-ramp to wait for passengers, instead of underneath it, like in the past.
And we just don't move. Normally we could get out 2 trips on one before 12 o'clock, and now you can't even get up, make 1 trip at 12 o'clock.
Only limousines and Orleans Parish transportation vehicles can park underneath the ramps now. Aviation officials say that policy is supposed to make the operation run more smoothly.
You can please 400 drivers, we have 570. If the other 150 aren't pleased, then you're back to game plan D or game plan E, whatever the case may be. And it's a continuing process for us that we haven't yet been able to rectify.
They saying a lot of bad things out there.
Like what?
Like somebody's going to get hurt.
The new policy is being tested until the 18th, but if the controversy continues, the Kenner City Council will consider an ordinance that would give them control over the cab drivers, including the power to try and remedy their problems. Mary Lou McCall, News Scene 8, Kenner.
Straight ahead, a new report on possible contamination at the site of the Livingston train derailment.
And the waters are still rising in St. Tammany Parish.
Over 15 million Americans have a heart condition. Bill Price is one of them. He has a doctor's prescription that must be refilled regularly. So Bill brings his prescription to Walgreens and has it filled with a top-quality generic drug instead of the name brand. Bill saves over $10 on each refill at Walgreens. Over $140 a year on this one prescription alone. Generic savings. Another good reason to bring all your prescriptions to Walgreens.
Estee Lauder celebrates the holidays with a great offer for you. The Total Makeup Organizer. 16 shades for eyes, lips, cheeks, nails, all in a tray with compartments you can use over and over again. This $90 value is just $17.50 with any Estee Lauder fragrance purchase. Merry Christmas from Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder's special holiday offer is yours at all home stores.
10.75%. That's all the interest you have to pay for financing any new 82 car at Bone Ford. But why come to Bone? Well, you can't order an 82 Ford at this point, so selection's important. And Bone has more new 82 Ford cars than any other dealer in town. We'd like to sell you one and give you the 10.75% at Bone Ford.
You know I wouldn't give you a bone deal.
Recently, a ceremony took place at the House of Commons to honor a few extraordinary wines. As wine experts from all over Europe looked on, more awards went to the wines of one winery than to any other. A winery from California. The California winery whose wines were honored more than any others.
Johannesburg Riesling.
The award-winning winery of Ernest and Julio Gallo. From Ernest and Julio Gallo, all the best.
A state police report on the Livingston train derailment says the area around the accident was highly contaminated at the time of the derailment. What's more, the report says depths of up to 15 feet around the accident site show contamination is still present. An attorney for residents in the area is concerned.
There are sand layers in that area that people use for drinking water that are only 15, 18, or 20 feet deep. So there would seem to me like some possibility of it already being in that aquifer. I wouldn't particularly, if it were mine to do, want to drink water from an aquifer that shallow, but there are people out there that do. And that if there's any of them close to that train wreck site, I'd be worried about it.
State Police Commander Bo Garrison says the contamination may sink even deeper in the area.
Officials are refusing to comment tonight on reports that a group of Texas chemical companies is offering to help pay for cleaning up the Tate Cove hazardous waste dump. A Baton Rouge newspaper says the companies that produce the waste are offering $200,000, the money in return for their release from further liability. Governor Treen is reportedly considering the offer.
The Pearl River crested this afternoon, but the threat of flooding in St. Tammany Parish still isn't over. Steve Ozinovich reports.
For days, civil defense officials talked of flooding. They prepared for that time when the Pearl River would no longer stay within its banks. Well, this morning, it finally happened. At a point just about a mile north of Pearl River, Louisiana, the Pearl overflowed its banks and began flooding low-lying areas alongside the river. Hardest hit was the Reeves Trailer Park. Most trailer owners left for higher ground, but some left their mobile homes on flooded land, hoping the water would rise no higher. But through the day, the river did rise, and the water rushed through the park with the fury of a mountain stream. Minnie Smith took over park operations last year. She's taking her flooding problems in stride.
It was nice.
In what way?
Just like to see the water, I guess, as long as no one loses anything.
So far, no homes have flooded, although 3 families evacuated low-lying subdivisions last night as water rose into their backyards. Officials say the water could rise another ½ inch, even if it doesn't rain this weekend. And if it does, well, no one wants to think about future problems until the present ones are solved. Steve Ozinovich, News Scene 8, along the Pearl River.
The Mississippi River is also rising and is expected to crest in a little more than 2 weeks. At New Orleans, the river is about 10 feet above sea level, and it's expected to rise another 3 feet before it crests, but officials say there's nothing to worry.